A quick favor before we start, if you love the Blueprint podcast, please rate and review us wherever you listen. It makes a huge difference. Thanks and enjoy the episode. Welcome to the Blueprint podcast, where we throw out the old blueprints so you can become who you were always meant to be. I'm your host, Jason Smith, and if you haven't already, make sure you click the subscribe button and share this podcast with your friends on social media and tag me in it at JBirdFit. Today, I have a very special guest for you, Kurtis Lee Thomas. Kurtis is a best-selling author, keynote speaker, and founder of Breathwork Detox, which was voted #1 corporate wellness provider of 2023. He's been featured on The Today Show, Forbes, US Today, Bloomberg, and his work has been brought into organizations like Nike and NASA. Kurtis is known for making breathwork accessible and powerful. It's been described as 20 years of therapy in one day without saying a word. He's written 2 best-selling books, The World Is Yours and How to Thrive in the Age of Anxiety. Kurtis is training the next generation of facilitators through his teacher training program. Today, we're diving into his journey, the science and power of breathwork, and how this work is transforming lives around the world. Kurtis Lee Thomas, welcome to the Blueprint Podcast.
All right, thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
Yeah, I'm really excited to have you. Breathwork has been one of those things in my life that I discovered while working in law enforcement that really helped me out physically, mentally, emotionally, and spiritually. It was a way for me to not only soothe my soul, but to get to a place where I started to begin to understand what the nervous system does and how we can begin to navigate that through the breath. And so I want to introduce you to people real quick. You're a best-selling author, facilitator, and the founder of Breathwork Detox, a practice often described as 20 years of therapy in one day without saying a word. Tell us a little bit about how you got started and where you first found breathwork as a valid modality for you.
Yeah, so I was on the path, on the journey, and on this journey we have more questions than we do answers. But at the same time, I was collecting certifications along the way, finding my own tools, but also how I wanted to help people and how I wanted to show up in the world. So I started as certified life coach, hypnotherapist, NLP practitioner, Reiki master, sports science, like all these different things. And at one point, I developed this stomach condition, and it felt like a mixture between a slight pain and 1,000 ants crawling in my stomach. So I thought I had parasites. So I was doing the most robust parasite cleanses, detoxes, 21-day fasting, and parasites was not my issue, nor was food my issue. So I went to the best doctors, GI specialists, did every test you can possibly imagine, and nothing worked. I traveled overseas. I did ayahuasca 14 times and some invasive procedures, some alternative medicine, quote unquote. We'll get back to that. And one day I tried this, someone told me to try this ancient breathing technique and it would fix me and and I actually did it. And then something miraculous happened. And in one session, my stomach condition completely eradicated and it was gone. And I just couldn't wrap my head around how that was possible. I am naturally a very skeptical, analytical person where I need to understand the facts. I need to know the science, like how is this possible? And then it hit me. The reason why these doctors couldn't tell me what was wrong with me is because my issue wasn't physical. It was energetic. It was emotional. After 5 years of suffering, it really all boiled down to something that no doctor could ever diagnose me with, which is energy clots. I had blockages and they just give you pills for that and they call it something else. So it was a great discovery on my part. And I just started immediately teaching breathwork. And starting in 2020, I started to certify other people to go out there and teach my modality and bring it to the world.
I think it's really important for us to have that healthy skepticism. I think for a lot of us, we've lost contact with our own discernment, our own inner guidance system. That piece of us that tells us to pay attention to certain things that are going on with ourselves, physically, mentally, emotionally, and spiritually. And so when we go to the doctor and we express, hey, I've got this thing that's going on, and they don't really listen to you. They take about 5 minutes with you and they might give you a medication. And I'm not getting a dig on doctors here, but that just seems to be what's available to us right now in terms of looking at the problems that people are having. And you really have to get to this place where you're willing to advocate for yourself. And it looks like you were willing to not only tap into your discernment, but also advocate for yourself by looking for alternative methods to get to this place of reaching what you might consider optimal health.
Yeah, I think, and I want to state what you stated because I think that's important. I'm not against Western medicine at all. If I have a cavity, give me the Novocaine. Don't rub a plant on my gums. So
break a bone, you're not Mr. Miyagi. I don't need you.
yeah, give me the morphine. Yeah, so I think it's the bridging of the gap between the Eastern and Western medicine. But it was one thing that was eye-opening for me is I was going down the rabbit hole talking to Professor Google and Dr. YouTube and just hours and hours consuming information. And I found out there was an organ in the stomach that was discovered in around 2014. And it was called the mesentery system. And it's like responsible for absorption, digestion. And I didn't know much about it. I didn't even know they discovered a new organ. I think I didn't get the memo or the press release. But I remember I was in an appointment with a GI doctor. And I just said, out of curiosity, I had no idea, what if it's my mesentery system? And the GI doctor said, what's that? And I was like, uh-oh. But I was just like, okay, I think I have.
Here's a case study you might want to read, Doc.
Yeah. So I was like, man, I actually might have to be my own doctor here. And I just kept exploring. And of course, that was the journey that led me to discovering breathwork and all the work that I do now. I mean, would I change it? No. Would I do it again? Probably not.
So I love being able to deviate every now and again. You did say you did ayahuasca up to 14 times. How did you get to being on that path, on that journey?
So yeah, I actually went to the same temple in Peru in Iquitos. And so I've been there 3 times. The first time I went with my mother, and I was going through my own thing, and my mother was suffering from severe depression. She just gave up on life. And we were both in a place of desperation. So we went there together and we had our breakthroughs. She went there and she said it saved her life. And for me, it was very life-changing. It didn't heal my stomach condition, but the realizations and the epiphanies and the different perspectives you have on life, that can be life-changing, because I ultimately think that's what life's about. That's how we change our life, is when we shift our perspective. And it can just be a tiny little shift, because that's really what happens over time. People say, we heal over time or we evolve over time. I personally disagree with that, because over time is what responsible for. We de-evolve, we grow old, we die over time. What happens over time is the question of why they say we heal. And what happens is we have life experiences, and within those life experiences, we have wisdom, and then we extrapolate that wisdom, and that wisdom allows us to see the same thing that happened to us from a different lens, from a different perspective. And that tiny shift through that wisdom and experience allows us to see, oh, wow, now I understand why that happened, or I get it now, or I have compassion and gratitude for whatever that situation was. So it's really the wisdom, and healing it's not about time. It's just about how you perceive and how you view what happened.
And what was one perspective shift that you had that was just truly transformational?
That was one of them. That was really one of the big ones.
Yeah. No, it's interesting, because you're getting to that place where you're recognizing that there needs to be a perspective shift, because you're in this place where you're struggling, you're going through it, you're having a difficult time. There's a lot of fear, anger, frustration, irritation, sadness, loneliness, depression, anger, resentment, and contempt. And these are all things that we store inside the body in different locations in the body. And you might not know what's going on and what it's causing in the body, but it does impact that gene expression, where these things will then manifest within the body in different locations. And so you're discovering and uncovering that you have this stored energy in the body, and you're recognizing that something has to change. You have an openness to doing new things. You're putting yourself and delving into novelty. And then you have a strong desire to transform. You recognize that you can't keep doing the things that you're doing. Hey, Blueprint listeners, if today's conversation resonated with you and you're ready to truly unlock your own personal transformation, I invite you to explore the Self-Discovery Blueprint. This is where we dive deep into the strategies and insights you need to understand who you are, clarify your purpose, and build the life you're truly meant for. It's the comprehensive guide to your next level growth. You can find out more by visiting my Stand store, link in bio, or in the show notes.
Yeah, I think that was very well said. And you're absolutely right. Because one of the things I did realize is that the mind always wants to live into the future, but the body holds on to the past, right? The soul always wants to be present, but the body holds on to the past. And that's why they say the issues are in the tissues and the body keeps score. And our body is a living library for all of our experiences. And even when we were children. Now, the emotions are meant to rise, move, and shift out of us, but they do get stuck. And sometimes we have to redefine our definition of pain or trauma, because what we experienced when we were 6, 7 years old in first grade, if we didn't get picked for volleyball and everyone else got picked and we're sitting there feeling like a loser, or we got pushed off the swing by a bully and everyone was laughing at us. Sounds silly to us now as grown-ups, but as a kid, that's traumatic. And most of the time, we don't have the emotional intelligence as children to realize, oh, that's about them. That's not about me. So we end up storing that. And what happens is life keeps lifing. And then now you're introduced to money problems and now bills and, oh, love, oh, heartbreak, oh, marriage, oh, divorce. Like all these things happen in life and are those issues that even from childhood, they begin to compound. And this is why people will have random aches and pains in their body. They have stiff joints. And it's because a lot of that stuff, it stores inside of the body. And no matter how many green juices we drink, books we read, the mind cannot release what the body's holding on to. And that's where breathwork came in and was extremely effective for me.
It's so interesting how those seemingly small moments when we're young have some of the greatest impacts on the narrative and the story that we tell ourselves moving forward. That one moment, for whatever reason, it's a sunny day, you're on the playground, you don't get chosen. You've had other sunny days on the playground where the same or similar things have happened, but for today, on that day, for some reason, it impacted you. And then you decided that I'm going to tuck this in the back of my mind. And now this is going to become a narrative that's going to go with me for the rest of my life. I'm then going to seek out this narrative in all the places in my life for all the reasons why I'm not enough or I'm never chosen. And then we're going to lead with that and have that impact our lives for the next 30, 40, 50 years. So for someone who's going through that and they're coming into that realization now, oh my gosh, I can't believe I have that old script running in the background still. How does breathwork help them begin to navigate through those old core limiting beliefs?
Yeah, I think the two greatest weapons that we have is breathwork and intention. Intention is very underrated because sometimes I look at issues and problems, like think about it as a cave like of hardened wax, and you have a torch, but that torch represents your awareness, and you just can take that torch into that cave of hardened wax and just hold it there. And if you hold it there, eventually it begins to warm, it begins to loosen, it begins to melt away. And that's how powerful our awareness is. So issues that we had, we normally don't have to fix it or find a solution. The awareness of that thing that you mentioned happening is the healing, is that awareness. Now, things that are really lodged within our psyche or within our body, the breath helps tap into that. Because one of the things that baffled me is that we were taught in school how nature thrives on flow and circulation. And when water gets still, it gets mucky and yucky and all this green stuff grows. And we know that circulation happens with water through rivers and oceans and even our blood. We all know we have blood in our body and how that blood gets distributed, which is through veins and arteries. But we can all agree we're made up of more energy than we are matter. Humans, even science is saying this. But how is that energy distributed throughout our body? And that's where we didn't know that. I didn't know that. And after doing my research, we have energetic pathways in the body called nadis. So there's 72,000 of these energetic highways that run through our body. And if we have an emotion, which is energy in motion, right? If it gets stuck in our energy body, it gets stuck in one of those nadis. And that's what causes us to feel discomfort or just not feeling comfortable in our own body. So the breath is connected to all 72,000 of those energy centers. So when you do conscious breathing, especially deep diaphragmatic breathing, which is what Breathwork Detox is, there's one place in your body, which they call the Times Square of your energy body, and that is your gut, your belly. And when we breathe deep down into our belly and our gut, we can clear those blockages, not just in the belly, but throughout the entire body and release those emotions. And you don't always have to know the emotion that you're releasing. You can just release it. Sometimes you need to feel it to heal it, but you're not feeling the pain. You're feeling yourself being the witness to seeing that emotion leave your energy field, to watch it pass through you. And I think that between intention and the breath as that mechanism, it's extremely effective.
And to someone who's new to Breathwork Detox, what is that diaphragmatic breathing that you're talking about?
Yeah, so if I have a group of people, I love doing this, and I'll just say, hey, everybody in the count of 3, put one hand on the belly, one hand on your chest, and take the deepest breath you can. And when I get to 3 and everyone takes a deep breath, you'll see something like this. It's like their chest moves, their clavicle moves, their shoulders go up, and I say, release it. And they release it. And then I say, 90% of you guys are breathing wrong. And everyone's like, what? And I say, watch.
What do you mean? I've been doing it my whole life.
Exactly, right? I say, watch a fish, watch a baby breathe. When a baby breathes, when they take in air, the belly rises. But what happens to us is our belly doesn't move. It's just our chest, because we get so much stress and tension caught in our diaphragm that we don't breathe down into our belly. So part of the Breathwork Detox is a very simple technique. You'd be shocked at how profound and what it can do. But it's a 3-part breath, and it's done in through the mouth, out through the mouth. Now, 99.9% of the time, we actually should be breathing through our nose. But you can't achieve what we achieve with Breathwork Detox by breathing through the nose. It has to be mouth breathing. The mouth is like an energetic exodus for the body. And if you just look at the body's natural way of getting rid of pent up stress and tension. So let's just say my body was getting really stressed and it was pent up, and I was reaching this peak. My body would go like this, and I would do something like this. I would do a sigh of relief. And that's what happens. That's what the body does when it feels pent up stress and in pain. They'll do a sigh, it'll build, and then. So in Breathwork Detox, we consciously induce that for a specific amount of time. And if someone was just to do 3 sighs in a row right now consciously, you'd be surprised of how good you feel and just how much stress was just on top of the layer of your everyday living. And you're like, wow, I actually feel good just from 3 sighs. When you do that for an extended amount of time, you not just start to burn through the stress, but you start going through and peeling back all the layers down to heartbreaks, down to failures, down to traumas, down to belief systems. And that's why about 50, 60% minimum of the people who do this technique will break out in tears and start crying. And I say this to everyone, especially men, because I've done this for the most masculine men on the planet. War veterans, Navy SEALs, NFL players, rugby players, you name it. And they all cry. They all cry. And I just say crying is all it is a huge energetic release. That's what crying is. It's a huge emotional release, and it's very liberating. And they say the eyes are the windows to the soul. And when you cry, you're cleansing those windows, and you're able to see life with new set of lenses. So it's extremely beneficial to allow yourself to get a good cry out once in a while, especially men, because it's just hard for us to be that vulnerable.
It's interesting that you say that, because we're going down this path where throughout our entire time that we've been on the planet, each one of us individually, we end up with this energy that continues to get stored over long periods of time. there's a natural breath that occurs as you're sitting at your desk or at work. Many of you might be listening right now as you're sitting in your cubicle and you don't realize that you've done it, but you've gone and you get that sigh out and you start to feel a little bit better as you're sitting here listening. And then we talk about that energetic release, that cry that happens because there's so many things that overwhelm our bodies, that overwhelm our nervous system, that overwhelm our brains. We just can't take it all in. And I speak about this from a crime scene perspective and the experiences that I had doing that job. You get to this place where you have to compartmentalize some of the things that you see, the things that you do, the experiences that you have. And you can very easily get stuck in these moments in time where you honestly, you feel like you're never moving forward. You feel like you're stuck in the same day. It's Groundhog Day over and over again. And everything just feels like there's a haze and there's a fog. And then all of a sudden you find somebody that's talking about breath work. For me, it was Wim Hof and James Nestor. And James will tell you mouths are for eating, noses are for breathing. You got that stuck in your head. So I love that you say that the diaphragmatic breathing with the mouth is also deeply impactful because I believe that it is. I found Wim Hof and what an amazing impact that had on me. It woke me up. It cracked me open in a way that I had never been cracked open before.
Yeah, it's powerful. I did a talk with James Nestor and I already knew from his book, I'm like, he's against mouth breathing and he's all nose breathing. You can't deny that the body's natural mechanism to release that stress is through the mouth. And that's why I do agree. 99% of the time, we should be breathing through our nose.
Yeah.
It's just, we just can't achieve this energetic exodus by breathing just through the nose. So I use nose breathing more as a maintenance. So look at the breath work, the deep diaphragmatic mouth breathing. As you have a dirty car, you're washing your car. Breath work is like washing your car with a power washer. But if you try to wash that same dirty car with meditation or nose breathing, it's like trying to wash your car with a toothbrush. You can get it done, but it's going to take a really long time. Meditation and nose breathing is the maintenance. That's the stuff you should be doing every single day. The deep mouth breathing that we do, this is something like a deep session you just need once a week or once every other week. You don't have to do this. It's so powerful. You can just have a practice where you just do it a couple times a month. And it's extremely effective, way more effective than if you did meditation for 6 months. And even Stanford just came out with a study. And they said just 5 minutes of structured breath work outperforms meditation in almost every single area, from improving mood and lowering stress. So I'm just happy studies are coming out because breath work is my thing. But I still meditate. I still do yoga. I'm not against those things. It's just that, man, we live in a microwave society. And people want to see results, and they want to see results fast. And there's so many things happening and time just seems to evaporate. And unlike yoga and meditation, the results of breathwork are immediate and undeniable from one session. And I think people need that instant validity. They need that instant gratification, because for me, it was like, whoa, okay, you got my attention. Now I know there's something about this breath. Now I want to learn more. So I think a lot of people are probably like you and I, and that's how they learn as well.
So for the audiences that are listening right now, what is a quick pace or breath work that you could run them through that, again, they're sitting in their cubicle, they're feeling a little bit stressed out, they're maybe have to go into a meeting and deliver a report that they've been dreading for the past week and a half, and you got to get the cover on the TPS report for the boss, right? And we figure these things out. So what is something that they can do to bring a little bit of relaxation as they go into that meeting?
Yeah. So the key to whenever you're trying to relax is you want to have a longer exhale than your inhale. That's the number one key. There's a few techniques that do that very well. One is box breathing. It's very simple, and it's just inhale through the nose for 4 seconds, hold it for 4 seconds, exhale for 4 seconds, and then hold it for 4 seconds. So at the top of the breath and the bottom of the breath, meaning when your lungs are full, you're holding for 4 seconds. And when your lungs are empty, you're also holding for 4 seconds, and you're breathing in 4 seconds, out 4 seconds. And they call that box breathing. And that will regulate your nervous system and get you back into parasympathetic mode, which is that rest and digest. And there's also the 4-7-8. And those two methods, those are used by the Navy SEALs when they need to fall asleep and they got high adrenaline. So those two are really effective, I think, if they're trying to calm themselves. But I also think there's different types of fear or anxiety. Because let's just say you're getting ready to do a TED talk and you're nervous and you want to try to calm yourself down with the breath. Harvard actually did a study and they said, if you want to calm yourself with the breath, it's actually less effective than if you told your brain and convinced your brain that you're actually excited and not nervous. So it's actually a lower hanging fruit for the brain to say, I'm actually excited. You know what? I've been preparing my whole life for this. And I've been speaking for 6 years and I finally got my opportunity. And this is going to go on a platform that has 43 million subscribers and everyone's going to see me and my message is going to be heard. And now you're like gassed up, right? So it's easier to do that than to sit there knowing you're nervous and be like, okay, just calm, just relax. I use different techniques for different things, but if it's something like that, man, I'm just getting myself geared up and excited. It calls for a moment where you gotta just relax your nervous system, you're over breathing, then that box breathing or the 4-7-8. And the 4-7-8 is just breathe in for 4 seconds, hold it for 7 seconds, and then exhale for 8 seconds.
Yeah, my favorite, and this has been my go-to ever since I heard Huberman say it, was the physiological sigh. So that double inhale in through the nose and then the long exhale out. And man, you do that 3 to 5 times and you're in another world. It's awesome.
That's a good one too. That was in my list. I was actually thinking about saying it, but sometimes what I notice is that when I give people too many breathing techniques, they don't remember any of them. But if I just give them 1 or maybe 2, they'll remember them forever. And like even when my own trainings, I'll teach them 5 techniques max, because you only really just need a couple in your toolbox. And then if you just remember to do them, that's the most important part.
And the one thing I want to remind people is it's really easy to get frustrated with some of this because my nervous system is different from your nervous system. It was trained and primed on a completely different family of origin. So what works for me might not work for you. So there might be different modalities and techniques that are going to work better for you. And it really just takes experimenting and figure some of this stuff out on your own. You want to change up the pace? Change up the pace. See how that impacts your body and the feeling that you have afterwards. Take that mental inventory after you spend a few minutes doing it and say, okay, no, actually, this is better if I do 4 and a 9, whatever it is for you. But you'll find the numbers that work for you in the long term.
Yeah, great advice.
So Breathwork Detox was voted number 1 corporate wellness provider in 2023. What has set it apart in that corporate wellness space?
I don't think corporations even knew this existed.
You're not wrong.
And there's no guilt. It's funny because when I go into these corporations, I know that, and I know how like somatic and cathartic this is. So I feel like I'm going in there with a Trojan horse, be like, yeah, we're just going to breathe and do mindfulness. And then I go in and it's like, boom, you got CEOs and executives crying on the floor. And you had companies like NASA. That was a difficult one because I have to speak to people differently. I'm going to talk to you much differently than I talk to someone who's a yogi or someone who's an executive. And NASA is a bunch of left-brained rocket scientists.
Yeah, there's a wall you have to break through there.
Yeah, you got to climb that thing because you're not breaking through it. So speaking to them, I actually brought in a friend, Dr. Jack Feldman, who is one of the top neuroscientists at UCLA. And I brought in Dr. Helen Levetsky, who's also a psychologist at UCLA, award-winning, world-recognized. And I brought them in with me to do a panel for NASA. And they went through the experience and they put on record, I think in Bloomberg or Business Insider, that it was the event that have elicited a more positive response than any other mindfulness event that they've ever done. So that was extremely empowering. And the feedback we got, we had amazing case studies that we ended up publishing online with NASA. And we actually did one for Nike as well. So those case studies allowed us to get recognized by the Today Show. And we were featured on the Today Show and we became voted number 1 corporate wellness provider. I love that because I'm introducing this to companies that have access to 70,000 employees. And that's powerful. And I remember I did an event for the Capital Group, which this is a financial institution that manages, I think it's like $2.3 or $2.4 trillion assets under management. And the co-chair was at this breathwork event and it blew his mind So being able to make impact on influential people who have influence of tens and thousands of people and employees. That's why I've spent a lot of time on building the corporate division of Breathwork Detox. And then also my passion lies in certifying people to go out there and teach this modality, because I'm sure you heard the phrase, give a man a fish, he eats for a day, but teach a man to fish and he eats for a lifetime. So that's really where most of my energy been being spent.
So what does it look like for you in terms of preparation to go into all of these different circumstances, right? You're going into NASA, you're going into Nike. There's going to be a little bit different approach with each one. How do you sit there and determine your approach when trying to relay this information to different groups of people?
Yeah, great question. So let's just say NASA's very left brain, Nike's more right brain, more creative. So with someone like NASA, I will go in with more science-based facts, really focusing on the facts and the science and case studies and things like that, because that's how their brain works. And that's why I brought in the two doctors with me as well. And then I'll also maybe cut down on some of my jokes. So I'll still have them in there because I like breaking the ice with jokes, but sometimes you get a different crowd and they laugh at different things. So I'll switch up the vernacular and the jokes. So that's how I'll go in. I'll prepare is those two things.
And are there any like individual case studies, just people that you've worked with over time? You've worked with former NFL players, various athletes, Olympians. Is there anyone that really stands out that just was so deeply impacted by the detox process?
Yeah, I'll say one gentleman, his name is Mark Victor Hansen. He came to we were at a retreat in Tucson, and he wrote the series Chicken Soup for the Soul with Jack Canfield, and they sold 500 million copies, and I think they hold the Guinness Book World Record. So arguably, he's one of the godfathers of personal development. He's got all the tools back when like Tony started. And so when I did this event for him, he came up to me afterwards. He said, "Can I have your email?" I said, "Absolutely." I said, "You good?" Because he had this interesting look on his face. He goes, "Yeah, I'm processing, but I'm going to reach out to you." And he reached back out to me maybe a week or two later, and he said, "Hey, I've been trying to forgive somebody for over 30 years and haven't been able to do." And he goes, "One session of your Breathwork Detox finally allowed me to let go of this, and I forgive this person." He goes, "I can't thank you enough." So that was a very impactful one for me, just because of the stature of who he was and everything he accomplished in personal development. And for him to give me that accolade, it was really just touching for me. And then I had people like the world's #1 sleep doctor, Dr. Michael Bruce, who's been on Oprah and Dr. Oz 39 times. And he reached out to me. My wife wants to thank you. My kids want to thank you. We're all thanking you right now because of what happened in that breath work. I just released so much of things I didn't even know I was holding on to. And he actually sent me a video on WhatsApp, and I said, "Hey, can I post this on my website?" He said, "Go for it." So if you go on my website, you'll see the video that he sent me. And then there's some unbelievable ones of things that happen that I can't explain. It's probably a little bit more spiritual, a little bit more woo-woo. But I get to the point, I've been doing this so long, a miracle isn't really a miracle to me anymore, because I just heard so many testimonials of what this can do. And it's not a cookie cutter experience. It's an array of all different things, because whatever you're holding on to and you release, it's a landslide of clearing that will allow you to manifest faster, I even had a woman who wasn't able to get pregnant for 8 years with her husband. They've been trying, and I think there's these special doctors. They spent tens of thousands of dollars in fertility doctors. And she said she was breathing, and when she was breathing, she felt like this energy lift from her womb or her uterus. And 2 weeks later, she took a pregnancy test and she was pregnant. So I was just like, wow, they were trying for 8 years. So weird things like that happen. And it's just story after story, and it's just pretty amazing to witness what unfolds.
Share with us a little bit more about what it's like to be in the room with the group, but also as the facilitator. You've talked a lot about energy, but that room has to feel so alive once you're in it, with just everyone's energy all at the same time.
No one's ever asked me that question before. And I think that's an amazing question, because it's part of our training. is I try to prepare people because we teach one-on-one breathwork, which is a level 1 certification, but level 2 is about large groups. And when you're in the energy of a large group of everybody who's releasing or crying and feeling joy, and some people are laughing, like all that energy just fills the room. And as a facilitator, it can actually be overwhelming and it can affect your practice if you're not prepared. And some people will get vertigo and you'll be in there and all of a sudden you start getting dizzy and dizzy. You can barely stand because the energy is so heightened. And I learned this the hard way because I was feeling dizzy and I didn't properly ground myself after a breath work. And I was pulling in my driveway and I crashed my car.
Oh, no.
In my own driveway. It is so funny because my neighbor was bringing in groceries and they have the groceries like a movie clip. They have the groceries. They say, and I hit it. They're thinking like I was happy hour drinking or something.
Good, bro.
Yeah, heck was that? I can't explain it. Yeah, man, it's powerful. And sometimes the energy is different. And if everyone's feeling really emotional, you can, as a facilitator, just start crying out of nowhere. And I try to really have my own energy fields and protections up so that stuff doesn't affect me, but sometimes it's very overwhelming where you just can't help yourself. So yeah, a lot of amazing things happen. It's a great question. So thanks for asking that.
When you watch these things about Joe Dispenza and all the different retreats that he has and just the spontaneous remissions and all of these things that are occurring, the one thing, the common denominator is you're in a large group of people. You've set the intention to be there. You're there for a specific period of time. You're in the room together and navigating whatever the guided meditation is along with the breath at the same time. This is completely out of character for anything that we've done in the past 50 to 80 years. This is something we've completely disconnected from when you look at the creation of community and being in community with one another. And so basically what you're doing is you're bringing people all together in a community for a period of time to have this experience. And it's not surprising to me that it would be transcendental, that you would have just this amazing opportunity to release all the things that are going on inside of you that you have been literally trapped in your body, in your soul for 20, 30, 40, 50 years. And you've never been given the opportunity to express yourself fully. And that's really what's happening there is you're finally getting to be witnessed and not rejected. And how many people can say that they've done that in their personal lives?
Yeah, said. Yeah. Very much.
That being witnessed without rejected, I think, is probably one of the biggest pieces that would set most people free from the mental prison that they live in on a daily basis.
Yeah, I mean, that really is everything when, I do an event or a training is you have to cultivate that safe space. And people need to know that they're safe and to be able to release, to let go in non-judgment. When we do the in-person trainings, it usually takes like to the third day or the end of the second day for people to realize we're far more alike than we are different.
Yeah.
We're all going through the same things in different circumstances. Nobody has an extra emotion than the other person or one less emotion than we all have the same emotions. And we feel the same emotions, and that's all that matters. The circumstances is irrelevant because if somebody lost $10,000 and it could be devastating because that's all they had, and a millionaire could lose $10,000, it's whatever. So that loss it's different things trigger different things for different people. The bottom line is we all feel the same emotions: loss, anger, betrayal, love, heartbreak. So when we realize we're more alike than we are different, a lot of those masks just begin to get taken off and the guards go down. And that is where the healing starts.
Yeah. And it's also letting go of comparison. It's so easy to put yourself in a position of diminishing yourself because you had an experience and other people have had it worse. Yeah, there's always going to be somebody else that had it worse, but they haven't lived in your shoes, in your experiences, with your skills, with your capabilities, with the knowledge and wisdom that you have. And so there might be some things that you've missed throughout your lifetime that would have helped you to navigate certain circumstances in your lifetime that led you to where you are today. So this is the opportunity to look at that from a place of earned wisdom, that I've gone through all these things. I have gone through the hardest days in my life, but I'm willing to now let that go so that I can begin to move forward and reorient myself in a new direction that I actually want to go.
Yeah. Rock bottom will teach you lessons that mountaintops never can.
Ain't that true? Now, your first book, The World is Yours, expands on the secret and introduces other universal laws. What did you feel people needed to understand beyond the law of attraction?
That's just a small part of the book. The book is two parts. We talk about the law of attraction, the law of compensation, right? Which is we got to give as much as we receive. And some people, we receive and we don't give. And the natural ebb and flow and the circulation of life is it needs to be like the breath. We need to give as much as we receive. It's the cycle. But some people give and give and give and don't receive. And that is equally as devastating as receiving and not giving. So it's about that balance and that flow. And then the second part of the book goes into the first part is our gifts. Like, why weren't we taught the law of attraction or the power of thought or the power of imagination and all these things in school? And then the second part of the book explains why that is. And it can definitely feel like you're going down a little bit of a rabbit hole of conspiracies. But I wrote the book 10 years ago, so guess what? All those conspiracies were proven true. It's been a decade. And it
seems to happen that way, doesn't it?
Yeah. We live in very much interesting times. I truly believe that. And what's ahead of us right now, I believe is biblical. It really is.
Tell us a little bit more about the power of imagination.
Man, it's, there's a saying, it says, if you can see it in your mind, you can hold it in your hand. And I look at the law of attraction as a key. Think of it like a key, right? A key is supposed to open up doors for you. And that's what we want. We want opportunities. So that first key is your thought, your intention, right? What is it that you want? Because if you don't know what you want, the universe doesn't know what you want. That's our free will that we need to exercise. So what is it that we want? Once you know what you want, the next ridge on that key is the imagination, right? Can you see it? Can you visualize it? Because you actually need to see it playing out. And because that leads to the third ridge, which is the most important one, which is the emotion, right? Can you feel the emotion of you already achieving what it is that you want? And once you feel that, that's what sends the rocket out to the universe. And that's what initiates the law of attraction. And a lot of people fail on the next step, right? Because you got your three ridges for your key, your thought, intention, the imagination, then the emotion. And then the last step is in action, right? You have to put the key in the door and you got to turn the key. So that's something you have to do. And that's what the universe will do. It won't just send you a text message. God's not going to write the messages in the clouds, but he will send you people and opportunities that you have to be aware that this is happening because the universe is going to give you breadcrumbs. And you have to follow those breadcrumbs in order to reap the benefits of your manifestation. And that could be getting invited to an event, to a podcast, picking up the phone on that annoying friend that keeps calling you and you're like, man, I want to talk to this person. But yet they're there to invite you somewhere. You're meant to meet somebody. All these things need to coincide with each other. And I don't think we need to really learn the law of attraction. Like we do it every day. Like we're doing it no matter what. It's just being more conscious and aware of your thoughts, of your intentions, of your words, and of your actions.
So it's interesting because a lot of people just did this week with the Powerball. And I don't think they realized that they did it. They went out, they bought a ticket. Maybe they bought a little more than they should have. Who knows? But they allowed themselves to take the opportunity to dream about what it would be like. If I had all that money, what would I do? And you start thinking about, I'm going to pay off all my debt. And then I'm going to help some of my family and friends out a little bit. Or there's a million and one things that I really want to do in life, but I just don't have the resources to be able to make that happen for myself. And you start to dream about what's actually possible for you. And you think that is the only path to get to where you want to be. Now, if you can sit there for a second and say, no, this is actually where I want to be, and you can start to reorient yourself in that direction, the Powerball isn't going to be the way that you're going to do it, more than likely. Statistically, it's rather impossible, but it doesn't mean that you can't start doing the small things today, that action that you were talking about, that's going to help you build that momentum in the direction that you want to go. The problem is we want it to happen now. We want it to happen yesterday. And it might take 3 years, 5 years, 10 years, might take you 20 years or a lifetime to get to the place that you're imagining in your head that you actually want to be. But you can actually get there.
I love that. It's a great exercise because you really do go into that manifesting where you feel the emotions and you can use that. Use that as that is actually how you should be visualizing your life and doing those small steps. And I do what you said, because there's a saying that says most people will overestimate what they can get accomplished in a year and underestimate what they can accomplish in 10.
So how do we know what is a good breadcrumb?
Yeah. So there's 2 ways to go about it. Collect every breadcrumb. Yes. And figure it out. Or the only other way is discernment and intuition. It's like, no matter what I say, your intuition will always trump my intellect. And if you feel like this is it, or this is something I need to, or that little tiny voice, or that gut feeling, or whatever it is, that's God talking to you. So what am I to say? It's like our intuition, our discernment is everything. So that's one way to discern and use the intuition. And the other one is just to collect them all and figure it out because the ones that seem to be the ones that you're supposed to are the ones that flow. If it flows and you start feeling like the synchronicities and it's, oh, wow, yeah, oh, I was just in San Diego too. And oh, yeah, I drive a red truck too. And like all these little synchronicities, like that's the universe just showing you that it's in alignment. So that's one way to be like, oh, this feels right. And that's that intuition speaking to you.
Yeah, it's hard though when you don't know how to accept good things. It goes back to that being in receiving mode, being someone who is able and willing to receive. And again, that discernment, what if your discernment's a little broken and it's hard to differentiate between something that's going to be good for you or not? I guess you end up learning the lesson either way when, you select it and it ends up not being good for you in the long term anyway.
There's 2 things. It could be that, but that could be an experience that needed to happen. So that means it's a good thing because it's all relative. And then you did say something a moment ago, and that is sabotage. We do sabotage those breadcrumbs sometimes. And that's just something we need to be aware of how we're sabotaging our own life and blocking our own blessings. And that's why I think even with the breath work, it's about letting go, like manifesting. That's one thing I learned is I think manifesting more for me now is about letting go and making room. Because I already know how to manifest. I already know, like I feel in my heart what's good for me. And if I can just make space, it could be a crappy habit, an old, outdated belief system, whatever it is. Once I learn to start letting go more, then it just naturally comes and fills that space. It's like the analogy of an airplane. If an airplane's looking to land on the runway, if there's something on that runway, that airplane can't land. In fact, the air traffic controller is going to say, hey, I want you to go in circles. And a lot of people feel like they're going in circles in life, and that's because they need to clear their runway. There's something there that needs to be removed or let go and relinquished. And then once you do that, you can get what you want. The airplane can land. And so I do think it's about creating space for the things that we want is really more effective for manifesting.
According to social media, today is the 999 portal. And this is all about letting go to make room. And you might be feeling that urge to purge. So you might be looking at your basement like I am right now and recognizing there's a whole stack of papers over there that needs to be shredded and to get rid of that. But to look in your space and to look for the things that are creating clutter in your life and begin to release those things. One of the things I did recently was to get rid of a bunch of old clothes and make sure that I donated it. But I thanked it the Marie Kondo style before I got rid of it. Thank you for your service. I appreciate you for being here and all the years that I was able to wear you, and somebody else is going to get a second life out of these things that I'm giving away. But in that, you're releasing, again, that stored energy that's tied to a lot of these things. And you really do start to feel better. And so you're making that room for new things to actually come into your life.
Yeah, I'm so glad you said that too, because in my head, I was thinking that, but I'm like, I can't say that in Jason's podcast. It's way too woo. And like, I think
Yeah.
They did studies and it's 84% of all women believe in astrology. And like the men, it was like super duper low. But yeah, it is a really powerful day for releasing and letting go. So like maybe the transmission and energy will go through when people hear this podcast when it posts. Yeah, auspicious day, but that is a formula. We do have to we have to let go before we can let in. Just like Master Yoda said, you must unlearn before you can learn. And Bruce Lee, you got to empty your cup before you can fill it up. So yeah, it's effective.
Yeah, that unlearning is so tough because it's often our default way of being. It's our emotional home and it's what we're used to. And I don't know, man, what are some ways that we can at least create awareness around what our emotional home actually is and then begin to recognize that in the moment and say, I don't know, maybe it's just, we're not doing this today or whatever it is, because you keep doing the same things over and over, but that's just what you're used to. You want to get right back to home so you can feel safe.
Yeah, man. I think one of the most powerful, first of all, I'll say that journaling is underrated.
Yeah.
If you can journal, what that does, it just gets all the junk out of your mind and onto paper so it doesn't have to keep recycling on a hamster wheel. So look at journaling as that. And one of the most powerful journaling exercises that I did, there was a couple, but the first one that I did was I took all my fears in my mind and all of them, even the ones I'm afraid to think, never mind speak or write down, and I put them on a piece of paper, all of them. And when I put them on the piece of paper, I looked at them all, and then I took another piece of paper and I drew a line down the middle. And I had to take one by one and place it either on the left side of the paper or the right side of the paper. On the left side of the paper is things that I can control, things that I can do about. On the right side of the paper was things I have no control over, I can't do anything about. And one of my, like, for example, one was like, I didn't pay taxes in 2002 or something like that. And I knew I had to pay that tax. And like, it was just in my mind worrying about it. And I was just like, okay, I can do something about that. I can go back and just set up a payment plan. Like, it wasn't a good year. It is what it is. And start doing that. And then one on the right, something I can't control is I was afraid of my mother dying. I just had this really deep fear that she wasn't going to come home and whatnot. And that's something that I can't control. And when you put all your fears on this piece of paper and you start to see the things you can control and can't control, you'll be surprised at how many things are on the right side of what you can't control. And what you do is you tear it in half, you throw it in the garbage, and you never think of it again because you can't control it. And that's why I love it. It's not a quote. I think I'm not even sure it's a Bible verse, but it said, God grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, the courage to change the things that I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. And man, that one right there is, you can just have one piece of life advice, man. I think that's it.
I can see the comment section now. Oh, so you're just not supposed to care about anything? No, that's not what that's saying, but okay.
But for me, man, it was like, of course I'll care when it happens, but why should I care about something that never happened? That's called worrying. And while worrying is small, perpetual amounts of fear. And that's just another way for it to go to the back door and for it to run our lives. So
that worry will stop you from doing anything that's going to move you forward into the future that you actually want to have. Because you spend all your time in the future or you retreat back to the past because it feels safe, even though you still can't live there. But your brain can go back there, and that's delightful every now and again, dissociate a little bit. And then you find yourself in the present, just not doing any of the things that you know that you need to do that would actually move you in the direction that you want to go.
Exactly.
So your second book, How to Thrive in the Age of Anxiety, speaks directly to the challenges people face today. What's the key message you wanted readers to walk away with?
In that book, it gives them the tools. So I share my few breathing techniques that made an impact in my life. And one of them changed my life. The other one saved my life. I tell a little bit of my story. I don't focus too much on me. I more so just give them tools. And I think we live in interesting times and it's hard out there. And I know a lot of people are struggling, and people look at me as a breathwork teacher and trainer, and I'm on all these platforms and they think I'm the best breather in the world. And man, no, I'm the worst breather in the world. That's why I do what I do, because I would not be able to get on podcasts, doing a TED Talk in 2 weeks. There's so many things I would not be able to do if I didn't have this technique, because I'm the worst breather. I was holding my breath, which is not even breathing. Yeah, this book's for everybody and anybody who just wants to get unstuck, get out of their own head, and have a tool that actually works.
What's your TED Talk going to be on?
So we're refining.
Breathwork? Yeah, we know.
Yeah, it was. I didn't want to be so cliche.
Yeah.
It's called Energy Clots, the invisible blockages that are draining your drive and sabotaging your healing.
Nice. No, that'd be good. Where are you doing that at?
So it's in San Jose.
That'd be cool. You nervous?
No, because I tricked myself into thinking
You're excited. Yeah.
But I won't say I'm a little, it was such short notice. So there's pressure that I feel right now because I got this guy emailing me saying, we need your slides, we need your transcripts, and we got to do a rehearsal. And I'm like, I got to come up with this talk first. So a little pressure from that I'm feeling, but at the end of the day, I'm going to crush it.
Now, did you get approached to do this or did you submit?
So I had somebody submit for me. So we had
a process been.
So my guy specializes in getting TED Talks. So I reached out to him and I'm like, man, I just don't have the time to submit all these things. Can I hire you to help me do these submissions for me? He's like, absolutely. Man, he got me one in 3 weeks. It's pretty quick. And it took me like 3 years because I just couldn't get one submission in. Yeah. So it's good to but supporting you.
That's going to be cool. With everything that you've been doing, looking at the next 5 years, where do you hope that Breathwork Detox ends up? What are you creating here?
On Netflix. I'd love to see a proper documentary made on not just the history and origins of breathwork. It's the most innate organic technology and the most powerful healing technology that's inside of us that we've all been equipped with since birth, yet no one was given a user's manual. They didn't teach that in health class, just how to do a couple pull-ups and not get a venereal disease, right? But there's things we should have learned. So connecting the origins, but then also with the modern breathwork movement, right? The breathwork boom, because I don't think breathwork's just a modality. I think it's a movement. And I would love to see that. And I'm working on that myself. So that's on my vision board, is to make that happen. 5 years, maybe sooner than that. And I'd love to see it be a staple in corporate wellness. They just did an article in USA Today about 5 days ago about breathwork detox and corporate wellness. So things are moving in the right direction. So I'm just happy to play my part in this whole breathwork boom. So I feel good about it. And I like to leave room for the unknown and where it can take and how this can evolve.
So why Netflix instead of Gaia?
No reason whatsoever. Both of them. Whoa.
You know what's great about social media is you don't need either one of them. You could totally produce an amazing documentary about
on YouTube.
All the things that you're doing and just drop it on YouTube and be so impactful for everybody.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I think for the reason why I say networks like that, because I would like to see a big network get behind it and want to push it and want to do it because of a good reason. Because they say that if this could hit mainstream and they can be a part of creating this wave, then the amount of healing and the amount of good that can do. That's why I want a big brand or network to get behind it, not just to put it on there as, okay. That's why I've been actually trying to do more and more corporate events with the Hulus and the HBOs and the Netflix, because all it takes is one executive. That's it, man, to be like, boom, and heal this and heal that. That's how I got my first investor. He didn't understand it. He didn't really want to invest. And he was dealing with his wife. His wife was bedridden and depressed and for like years. And that the relationship was tumultuous. And she ended up dragging herself to one of my breathwork events. And she ended up taking my teacher training, completely changed her life. He's like, bro, my wife is back. He goes, you have no idea. He goes, this is an act of God. And he's, thank you. And then he ended up becoming my investor. And he said, I have to do this. This is beyond me. So moments like that is really what I thrive in when I know like I'm in alignment with the universe. And
yeah, Breathwork Detox, changing people's lives.
Amen.
Kurtis, thank you so much for being here. Tell everybody how to reach you and work with you.
So If you want to reach me personally, Man from the Stars on my Instagram, you can send me a DM. I'm pretty good about that. If you want to try Breathwork Detox, we do virtual events every 2 weeks. So you go to breathworkdetox.com. There's a program suite. You can check out virtual events. You can get a free consultation if you're interested in becoming a teacher. So I think either breathworkdetox.com or @Man from the Stars, and you'll be able to connect with us.
Yeah. Be sure to follow Kurtis, everybody, and check out the show notes because all the links are going to be there for you to connect. Kurtis, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thanks, dude.